There is an ancient sickness that spreads not through the air, but through the mind. It does not attack the body, it attacks reason itself. And when it takes hold, a society begins to believe its own lies, to worship its own tyrants, and to call madness sanity. This sickness has worn many masks across centuries. In medieval Europe, it was the dancing plague, entire villages convulsing in uncontrollable fits, convinced they were cursed. In Salem, it was the belief that neighbors consorted with the devil. In the last century, it manifested in stadiums filled with people raising their arms in unison, utterly convinced that a single man embodied their salvation. The disease mutates, but its core remains unchanged, a collective surrender of the mind to a comforting delusion. The French psychologist Gustave Le Bon, writing in the late 19th century, studied the nature of crowds. He observed that when individuals gather into masses, they lose their capacity for critical thought. Emotions become contagious, reason becomes a burden. He wrote that the masses have never truly thirsted for truth. They turn away from evidence that displeases them. They prefer error, if error seduces them. Give them illusions, and they will follow you anywhere. Try to destroy those illusions, and they will destroy you. Le Bon understood something essential. The human mind is not naturally inclined toward freedom. Freedom requires effort, solitude, and the courage to question. The easy path is to let someone else do the thinking. Physical epidemics we understand. We know about quarantines, vaccines, and the curve of infection. But there are also epidemics of the mind. And among them, the most terrifying is mass psychosis, a state in which delusion becomes the new normal, spreading from person to person like a contagion, often without anyone realizing it has taken hold. History has seen it in witch hunts, in dancing plagues, in genocides. In our own time it wears a different face. It is the psychosis of totalitarianism. Totalitarianism is not merely dictatorship. It is not simply a government that suppresses opposition. It is a complete transformation of human nature itself. The political philosopher Hannah Arendt, who fled Nazi Germany and spent her life analyzing its mechanisms, called totalitarianism an attempt to remake what it means to be human. It does not merely imprison the body, it colonizes the soul. The Dutch psychiatrist Joost Meerloo, who survived Nazi occupation and later studied the psychological effects of authoritarian rule, wrote that living under such a system produces reactions disturbingly similar to schizophrenia. Reality becomes fluid. Language loses its meaning. Words like freedom are used to describe servitude. Peace is the name given to perpetual war. In a totalitarian society, the population splits into two groups, the rulers and the ruled. Both are deformed, though in different ways. The rulers are elevated to an almost godlike status, a position no imperfect power, corrupted human can sustain. They become prisoners of their own mythology, forced to perform infallibility while knowing privately their own frailties. The ruled, meanwhile, regress into a childlike dependency, handing over their freedom in exchange for the illusion of safety. This transformation is built on delusion, for only the deluded believe they can control every aspect of society from above. And only the deluded would willingly give up their autonomy to those who promise order. If you are listening to this and something stirs, a faint recognition, a sense that you have witnessed these patterns before, then you are already beginning to resist. That is the first step. At Silent Mind Academy, we explore how to recognize the subtle mechanisms of control before they fully close around us. If this subject matters to you, consider subscribing. We are building a community of those who refuse to let their minds be colonized. Let that sink in, and then continue with me as we go deeper. So what triggers this mass psychosis? As we have explored before in other discussions, it begins not with the masses but with the ruling class. Those who crave power are naturally drawn to ideologies that promise total control. Communism, fascism, technocracy, whatever name it wears. These ideologies share a common fantasy. that human beings can be engineered, that society can be perfected, that dissent is a disease to be eradicated. Once the rulers are possessed by this delusion, their next task is to spread it. And they do so through a calculated process: menticide. Menticide, the killing of the mind. It is an ancient crime, but in the modern age it has been systematized. It is a deliberate assault on human consciousness. Using psychological manipulation, propaganda, and the perversion of justice to imprint the ruler's thoughts onto the population. Meerloo described it as a form of psychic murder. The goal is not merely to make people obey, it is to make them love their chains, to believe that the chains are ornaments. The first step in menticide is fear. When people are flooded with fear, their rational defenses crumble. Threats can be real, imagined, or entirely manufactured. A particularly effective method is to use waves of terror. Periods of intense fear followed by brief calm, then a new wave more intense than the last. Each cycle softens the mind, making it more receptive to the next. This is why totalitarian regimes often oscillate between manufactured crises and promised respites. The population becomes conditioned to look to the rulers for safety, never realizing that the rulers themselves are orchestrating the danger. While fear primes the population, propaganda finishes the work. Contradictory reports, nonsensical information, outright lies, these are used to create confusion. Logic can counter logic, but illogic disorients, as Meerloo observed. While people are still searching for a reasonable counter-argument to the first lie, the totalitarians have already launched another. The result is a mind too exhausted to resist. This is sometimes called the fire hose of falsehood, an unrelenting stream of contradictory assertions that leaves no time for verification. In such an environment, the simplest survival strategy is to stop questioning altogether and simply accept whatever the authorities say. Never before have the tools of menticide been so effective. Smartphones, social media, algorithms that filter and censor, all allow those in power to constantly bombard the public with their narratives. Worse, these technologies are addictive. People willingly submit themselves to the assault, hour after hour, without retreating to reflect. No rest, no meditation, no real conversation. The senses are overloaded until the capacity for questioning withers. The very devices that were supposed to connect us have become instruments of isolation and conditioning. But there is a further step: isolation. When people are cut off from friends, family, and co-workers, they lose the corrective influence of those who see through the propaganda. They also become more easily conditioned. Ivan Pavlov discovered that conditioned reflexes are easiest to form in a quiet laboratory with minimal distractions. Totalitarians have applied this principle: isolate the victim, repeat the stimuli, and the mind can be reshaped. In the modern context, isolation need not be physical, it can be social and digital. Algorithms create echo chambers. Fear of being ostracized silences dissent. The result is a population that has been atomized, each individual alone with their screen, unaware that others around them share the same quiet doubts. Alone, confused, battered by waves of fear, a population descends into a vulnerable state. The endless propaganda turns rational minds into playgrounds for irrational forces. Chaos swirls outside and inside, and then the rulers offer a way out: order, a return to stability. All it costs is freedom. People hand over their autonomy. They become obedient subjects, relieved of the burden of responsibility. They descend into the delusions of totalitarianism because, as Meerloo put it, it offers the peace of utter submission. There is a terrible seduction in this. To be told what to think, what to fear, and what to hope for. To have the chaos of existence reduced to a simple narrative of good versus evil. This is a temptation that many find irresistible. But this order is pathological. It demands conformity, destroys spontaneity, crushes creativity. No matter what name it wears: rule by scientists, by bureaucrats, by a single leader, it leads to stagnation, suffering, and mass destruction. Arendt warned that totalitarian movements create a world of superfluous men, where individuals feel so isolated and purposeless that they are willing to dissolve themselves into the movement. The price of belonging is the annihilation of the self. So how can totalitarianism be prevented? And if a society is already in its grip, can sanity be restored? There is no simple cure, but there are paths. Carl Jung believed that the first step lies within each of us. Those who wish to help return sanity to an insane world must first bring order to their own minds. They must free themselves from the grip of the collective psychosis, and in doing so, become beacons for others. One person who extricates themselves from the group identity can light a path for many. Jung called this process individuation, the slow, often painful work of differentiating oneself from the mass, reclaiming one's own conscience, and learning to trust one's own perception again. Beyond that, there are practical actions. The truth must be spread wherever the ruling elite tries to suppress it. Propaganda thrives on censorship. Truth thrives in openness. So share information that counters the lies as widely as possible. In the Soviet Union, dissidents like Alexander Solzhenitsyn risked everything to publish one book, one story, that would break through the state's monopoly on truth. Today, the act of sharing an unapproved fact can be equally powerful. Another weapon is humor. Ridicule deflates the pretensions of tyrants. As Meerloo noted, demagogues have almost no capacity for humor. They take themselves with deadly seriousness. Treat them with laughter, and their power begins to collapse. In Eastern Europe under communism, jokes about the regime were not merely entertainment. They were a form of resistance, a way of reminding people that the emperor had no clothes. Humor restores perspective. It shrinks the inflated. Václav Havel, who lived under Soviet communism and later became president of Czechoslovakia, recommended building what he called parallel structures. These are organizations, businesses, cultural initiatives, anything that exists physically within the totalitarian system, but morally outside of it. When enough such structures form, they create a parallel society, an enclave of freedom and sanity, a place where a different kind of life can be lived, one aligned with true human values. Havel's own experience showed that such parallel societies can grow, eventually becoming so substantial that the old system cannot ignore them. But above all, what is required is action. The ruling elite do not wait passively. They constantly scheme to increase their power. So too must those who value freedom take deliberate, persistent steps to resist. This is never easy. As Thomas Paine wrote during the American Revolution, tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered, yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. Every small act of defiance, refusing to use the prescribed language, helping a neighbor who has been targeted, sharing a banned book, contributes to the slow erosion of the system. In a world descending into mass psychosis, it is easy to feel powerless. The machinery of menticide seems overwhelming, and the collective delusion appears unbreakable. But the truth is that each of us has a role. Whether by clearing our own minds, sharing honest information, using humor, or building alternative structures, we can push back against the menticide. The battle for sanity is fought in small acts, in everyday choices, in refusing to surrender our capacity to think. This is not a call to violence. It is a call to clarity, to courage, to the stubborn refusal to let anyone else do your thinking for you. The future of freedom depends on whether enough of us will choose to remain awake while the world around us drifts into sleep. If this message matters to you, if you believe that sanity is worth fighting for, then do something right now. Hit that like button. It helps Silent Mind Academy reach others who need to hear that we are not powerless. And subscribe, because this channel exists to explore the ideas that keep us free. Together, we can build a parallel structure of the mind, a space where reason, courage, and truth still have a home. Pause, breathe, and then take that step. The path to freedom begins with a single conscious choice.